of Wednesday's bleak financial news with our Bream team panel tonight. Democratic strategist Kevin Walling, Club for Growth President David McIntosh, and Cal Berkeley law professor John Yoo. Welcome back to all of you.
Hey, Shannon. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, so let's start with this. Politico Nightly tonight has this out. Says all of this is a political nightmare for Biden and Democrats, staring down potentially big losses in the midterm elections. What they really have to do to wake up from this bad dream is pray that all the very terribly wrong predictions about the direction of inflation somehow eventually come true. David, will they?
Absolutely. What's going to happen is, as inflation continues to remain high throughout the summer and into November, voters are fed up with the Biden policies and the Democratic Congress. That's going to translate into wins in typical Democratic seats for Republican challengers. I predict the Senate will be able to take back the Senate. Sadly, Shannon, I think also at the end of this month, we're going to see that we really have been in a recession for the last 6 months. And that's going to start also affecting employment, people losing their jobs, on top of not being able to fill up the gas tank, go and buy groceries, all of the things that your reporters mentioned they're struggling with already. It's going to be a wave for Republicans in this next election.
Well, you're right. At the end of this month, we'll have 2 quarters worth of information to show us if we're technically hitting that recession definition. In the meantime, the president said tonight, and Kevin touched on this, that today's headline inflation reading is out of date. Today's data does not reflect the full impact of nearly 30 days of decreases in gas prices. Those savings are providing important breathing room for American families. So, John, he's saying, help is on the way. Things are better. And you know, this administration is certainly hoping that the numbers will be better next month as well.
We don't need to see the exact precise numbers, whether it's 9.1% inflation or 8.9% inflation. Families and all of us can look around and see that prices are much higher. When you look at the inflation rate when President Biden took office, it was below 2%. After a year, it was already around 7%. Inflation tripled just under his first year as president. It's not being caused by Ukraine alone. It's not being caused by out-of-date numbers. President Biden and his party pushed through a almost $2 trillion spending bill in their first months in office when inflation was already going up. But just don't take conservatives or Republicans for this view. Larry Summers, the Treasury Secretary, and President Obama said at the time that bill passed, if that bill passes, we are going to see inflation unlike kinds we haven't seen in generations. And he was right.
Well, and the American people think so as well. We've got some new polling out from Pew. First of all, this, concerned about rising prices for food and consumer goods. 75% said they're very concerned. 21% said somewhat concerned. That means 96% of the people that they surveyed on this either felt somewhat or very concerned about things for food and consumer goods. And also in that poll, have President Biden's policies, what have they done to the economy? 56%, a majority said they have made things worse. So, Kevin, they feel it, and they're blaming the White House.
Yes, Shannon, they certainly feel it. And that's why, we've had conversations before over the last couple of weeks that, I think the number one issue that will drive the midterms is the economy. And that's why you've seen the White House really step up its game, really tackle this issue, talking about some of the root causes and focusing on some legislative fixes that the administration can pursue when it comes to, like I said, solving the baby shortage crisis from a few weeks ago, anti-price gouging legislation at the pump where 0 Republicans in Congress signed on to. We're looking at prescription drug reform that would drive down the cost of healthcare. These are all solutions that Democrats are focusing on over the next 117 days before these midterms. And the Republican answer to all this is to obstruct and to say no, because I think they're interested in running out the clock, running up those numbers, and making sure in the Republican column that Americans just blame Democrats for this instead of coming to the table with us to pursue some solutions.
Well, and the DNC tweeted about that today.
Shannon,
they said this. Let me read this to you, and I'll give you a chance to respond to that because they tie together. They say House Republicans have repeatedly voted against bills that would help lower costs, including a bill to help lower the cost of food by helping America's farmers, a bill to stop gas companies from price gouging, and a bill to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So, David, I'll give you a chance to answer those claims there that Republicans are stepping in the way of legislative solutions.
The reason the Republicans are opposing those is that all of those policies would make it worse. They would drive up prices even further because they spend more money. They would drive up unemployment because they would tax people. The latest proposal we saw was that they would start taxing small businesses in this country who've been suffering during COVID, just barely able to come back, and now they want to add an extra percentage of taxes on them. The reason Republicans oppose these White House proposals is they would make the situation worse. They'd make the economy worse, they'd drive up more inflation, and they know that, and they're not going to put a Band-Aid on this. Instead, they want real solutions, reduce the spending, don't put another huge spending bill out there the way President Biden's budget does, lower taxes so that businesses will be able to create more jobs and people will be able to earn more money. Those are the solutions Republicans are putting on the table.
It sounds like Senator Joe Manchin is not going to go along once again, and that's going to stymie some of these plans. He said no matter what spending aspirations some in Congress may have, it is clear to anyone who visits a grocery store or a gas station that we cannot add any more fuel to this inflation fire. In response to the numbers today, I want to get a quick comment from John and Kevin so we can give you both a quick last word.
I would just say the American people should thank Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema because they stopped the Build Back Better bill, which would have driven inflation up higher, even worse than it already is. And I hope they stick to their demands that the government not spend more than it's taking in right now, particularly in a time of high inflation.
Kevin?
Well, Shannon, to John's point, listen, the debt and deficit has fallen over the last 2 years of this administration. We have not added more spending. What we're seeing is, in fact, a reconciliation package hopefully making its way through the Senate that would cut prescription drug costs, that would tackle, like I said, some of these core energy costs that are affecting Americans. And Democrats are interested in solutions while Republicans won't play ball.
All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it on that point of disagreement. Thank you all for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.